and welcome to Retro Americana. I'm your host, Jeremy Scott. Got Greg Bilby on the show. Oh yeah. And he's got some stuff for us, some cool stuff. Of course, he always brings cool stuff, and this episode is no exception. But before we do that, up first, I've got an unnamed astronaut toy line commercial. What does that mean? I guess I'll kind of tell you. They don't ever, it's not a part of, it's not like He-Man, where it's like you got He-Man and Skeletor and all this stuff. They never really say what's going on. It just seems like a whole bunch of different Space Guy toys made by Mattel from 1968. The camera work in this it made me kind of car sick when I was looking at it. If you can get car sick in an office, I don't know. The music is definitely kind of trippy. It's perfect old school space music. And another thing about this, it kind of reminds me and us that in that time period, we had very wild, crazy expectations for space exploration. You know, back then it wasn't out of the question, you know, for the 1980s, by the 1980s we'd have cities on the moon. Or, you know, maybe by the 90s we've got stuff going on in Mars. We just had this kind of really wild idea about what we could do in space. I mean, technology is way, way more advanced than it was back in 1968, but we don't have all that. We've got an International Space Station and some satellites and stuff, but that's really about it. So check this out from 1968, an unnamed astronaut toy line by Mattel.
Meet Major Matt Mason, Mattel's man in space and the bravest astronaut yet. He lives on the moon. We may all be there soon. And he gets around with a jet. Until Sergeant Storm in his red uniform, Major Matt worked all alone. Now, together, they face the dangers of space and seek to learn the unknown. The machines that they drive seem almost alive as they transport the adventurous pair. The new Astrotrack whips through the black, and Firebolt even goes where they meet Captain Laser, his space gear ablaze with energy stored from the stars. He's a giant, it's true, but a friendly one who spent his boyhood on Mars. An exciting place, the world of space, as all the astronauts know. This world is swell. It's made by Mattel. With it, how far can you go?
Okay, up next, folks, we have the Daredevil Trick Track from the 1960s. I like saying that. Trick Track. Trick Track. It's an awesome car toy. A lot of accessories and stuff like that. I mean, you'll see. And you know, when I looked at it and saw the setup and what they had going on, I was thinking to myself, well, you really have to kind of know what you're doing to make that toy as cool as possible. Because it seemed like there would be a lot of trial and error and all that. And it's just another example of how toys back in the day were not only entertaining for kids, but it kind of encouraged them to really use their mind and check stuff out, not just mindless video games and all that. Other than that, the camera work is awesome, the music rocks, and there's a guy in there that looks like he could be Pee Wee Herman's dad. It's not funny, it's serious. Now it's funny. But the guy looks like he could be Pee Wee Herman's dad. So check this out from the 1960s, the Daredevil Trick Track. Trick Track.
It's the exciting new Daredevil Trick Track with the incredible Dolphin Racer, gear-driven for longer battery life. Daredevil Trick Track, full of fantastic tricks. A sensational new steering track, a wall of logs, a teeter-totter, and it's up, 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 and over we go, a somersault flip. And now, straight through a fly-apart house. Get Daredevil Trick Track, action-packed with tricks and tracks. It's thrilling, spilling, crashing, smashing. Daredevil Trick Track from Transogram, where the fun comes from. Wow!
All right, up next, folks, we have a G.I. Joe commercial from the 1960s. Applause. But this isn't, if you grew up in the 80s, this isn't the kind of G.I. Joe toy that you might be familiar with. This is the old school kind of original one, and they weren't little action figures. They were like kind of big, tall dolls. And it just kind of seems like a dress-up doll for boys or something. I don't know. If you ask me, they're not as cool as my generation's G.I. Joe toys. And I actually have an old school G.I. Joe guy from the 80s. I don't know this character's name. He's obviously a good guy. If you look at this guy and you know who he is, shoot me out an email at jscott@intv.me. Tell me who the heck he is. And I just want to take one quick second to talk about G.I. Joe. My favorite character in G.I. Joe is Cobra Commander. All the way, man. I felt so bad for him because he had this network of goons and all this billion-dollar equipment, but he can never beat G.I. Joe. And although he never said this, I always wanted to see him do this. You know, like walk into a room and there's a bunch of the Cobra Commander guys, like, you know, hanging out, having coffee, you know, they're on a break, and he's mad about something. He comes in and he goes, "Assemble, fools!" I wish he would have said that. I think that's so cool. Try that at home, and you tell me if you think that's cool or not. Assemble, fools! I don't know. There's something really wrong with me, folks. But check this out. G.I. Joe commercial from the 1960s. Assemble, fools!
G.I. Joe, fighting man from head to toe, on the land, on the sea, in the air.
G.I. Joe attacks! Boom, boom! G.I. Joe takes the hill! Bam, bam! Horrific battle!
Terrific equipment to have a battle with. When you get G.I. Joe and the authentic G.I. Joe equipment, you'll have the greatest realism, the greatest fun you ever had in playing soldier. Box after box of authentic uniforms and equipment, so you can change your G.I. Joe soldier into a camouflage Marine ready for battle, a Navy frogman with complete scuba suit and inflatable life raft, an Air Force pilot with high-altitude helmet and air vest. Get G.I. Joe and get G.I. Joe equipment so you can set up exciting battle action whenever you want. Remember, only G.I. Joe is G.I. Joe.